Hey everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow out of Diagnostics. Today I have a special treat for you guys. Check out this beauty parked in the driveway. It's a 1991 Chevy K1500, a four-wheel drive, step side. This thing is in immaculate shape. Yeah, that's what a real truck looks like. That's awesome. Check out this velvet interior, all original. Beautiful. So what's the story of this thing? So the owner got a random phone call, and this guy's in Maryland, like 4 hours away. And the story of this truck, it's a long story, but let me give you the brief history. So he bought it brand new. And about 4 years ago, he decided to do an engine swap. So this came with, the original engine was the 5-liter V8, and he decided to upgrade to a 5.7. So did the engine swap, and after the engine swap, you know, there's a little drivability problem. I guess it wasn't getting quite enough fuel, so he had some guy, I think, reflashed the PCM. I don't know if that's even possible on this thing, but anyways, it drove fine. But however, at idle, it still had this little hiccup once in a while. But you know, no big deal. He drove it like that for years. Just last month, he said the truck left him stranded. He had to get it towed. Crank no start, and that is where the parts cannon was loaded, like big time. Let me show you the list of what was replaced and where we are right now. Alright, so here's the little logbook. So this is October 1st. Major idling problem. Loading up on fuel, replaced map sensor, was original. Throttle positioning sensor, idle air control, coolant temp sensor, replace cap and rotor, replace ignition coil with Excel coil. Okay, running problem came back, would only run around 2,000 RPM, also leaking radiator. So here we go again. Replaced the distributor, replaced the engine computer, replaced the fuel pump, replaced spark plugs, replaced gas filter, replaced complete throttle body. And yes, the original one is in the box over there. Replaced radiator, still misses at idle, not all the time. I mean, it took the guy like an hour to tell me the whole story. It was pretty ridiculous. But I was really excited to take a crack at it. And, you know, he drove all the way up here, so there's no way we can disappoint him. So we have to figure out what the problem is. So it drove all the way up here, you know, 4 hours on the highway. Says it drives great. It has good power, good acceleration. The only issue is when you pull up to a stop sign, you, like, after 30 seconds, he said it starts misfiring. Sometimes it's almost stalls out. When you start driving, everything's good. So where would you start? I mean, everything's new, right? There's not much to these trucks. So, you know, the problem is hopefully going to be interesting. So start with the scanner. This thing does have an OBD1 port right down there. It's a GM adapter. We've got hooked up to the cigarette lighter. And on the Verus, put in the VIN. Let's fire this thing up and see. Let's key on. Let's load it up. See how it runs. Just make sure everything is appropriate. Automatic. Yep. Alright. Start with trouble codes. I'm pretty sure it won't have any. No codes present, of course. Okay, we're going right for data display. It also has road test data. Actually, I don't exactly know what that is. So it's got the old school block learn and integrator, short and long term. Oxygen sensor. Let's just look at the regular data list. So not that many data PIDs. Actually, it's the same list, it looks like. We could look at all of them. It says Prom ID 6571. Knock, etc. Now let's fire it up and look at some data PIDs. Man, that thing cranks good. No messing around. And you know, when he pulled up here, the truck was running fine, and he really wanted me to see what the problem was. So he put it in gear, just let it idle in gear, and to me it felt like a little fish bite. It was like boom, you know, really sudden. It wasn't really like a lack of fuel. This thing's a throttle body. It's almost like a carburetor. So if it ran out of fuel, you would have more than one cylinder almost cut out. So at this point, I'm suspecting something ignition related. So the scanner might not be the most informative tool, but I still want to make sure that our fuel mixture is good, that our oxygen sensor is doing its thing. There's TPS. I'm going to give it some throttle. Again, there's no heater on the oxygen sensor, so it takes a little while to warm up. Still an open loop. Oh, there it goes. It felt a little something. Boom. Give it some more throttle. Closed loop. Block learn. It's at 115. Where's our integrator? Right there, 120. So 128 is like 0%. If it's below 128, it means it's running a little rich, so taking some fuel away. This is at idle. Look at that, it's rich. Still rich. We're taking fuel away, like a lot. It still taking fuel away. 102, 128. Oh, it's really starting to stumble. So you can't get this oxygen sensor down. We're taking a lot of fuel away. There's your problem, dude. I want to give it some throttle. See what happens. So it is switching. Block learn is at 107, integrator is at 124. Okay, Map is at 6.7 inches of mercury. Let off the throttle. Again, pegged rich. There it goes. Still rich. We're in closed loop. It should be taking fuel away. Look at that. That's the problem. Boom, boom, boom. Taking fuel away and right back to 128. So we can't go below 102 on the block learn to get this oxygen sensor down. It's definitely doing it right now. It is a fuel. Yep. Fuel problem for sure. This should not be happening. This is way too much swing, and the block learn is basically pegged lean. So it's trying to lean out this oxygen sensor, but it's stuck rich most of the time. Very interesting. So let's save that data. Okay. And what I want to do is, locate the sensor, unplug it, run this thing in open loop, see if it's doing the same thing. And this sounds like almost like the Oldsmobile Silhouette, where the oxygen sensor was not happy. It was like stuck. I mean, this one seems like it's working most of the time. So the question is the sensor lying, or is the sensor like miscalibrated? Are we actually running too lean to the point where the truck is, starting to starve for fuel? I mean, you can see we get lean, 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 it hiccups, and then it goes right back to its happy spot. Throttle response is great. And that throttle blip does not do anything to the oxygen sensor. Okay, we're coming down again. And there. Now it's happy. And start for fuel right there. Lean misfire. Very interesting. Like I said, the oxygen sensor has obviously been replaced. And what's the next step here? Obviously unplugging the sensor. We'll see if the engine runs smooth. And then we can take a secondary ignition waveform to see if the engine is indeed running lean. You'll see that ramp on the actual spark line go up if it's running super lean. But this, I don't like this oxygen sensor pattern at all, or the fuel trim going up and down like that. Now look right there, it actually switched to the block learn, went back up a little bit, and the integrator kind of leveled out, and then it started doing the same thing. So it's trying to take fuel away based on this oxygen sensor reading. We are sure of that. Let's take a peek under the hood. Wow. This thing is polished inside and out. That's pretty crazy. So down there, you can see a NOx sensor. I'm sure it has custom headers and all this good stuff. And hey, right here is our oxygen sensor. There it is, just one, and it's only on the driver's side bank. Is that appropriate? Is that proper? Great question. However, right now I just want to unplug it. Easy enough. So I'm wondering, how many oxygen sensors is this thing supposed to have? It looks like just one, or at least the 5-liter had one. But where would it be located on the OEM style? Is it after both banks? And, you know, in the throttle body, I think the injectors just spray the same amount of fuel, so it's not like it's trying to lean out one bank versus the other. It's not that fancy. So let's just do our RPM, O2, integrator, open loop, closed loop, oxygen block learn. Let's see. Should be good for now. So I expect this thing, if it stays at 128 block learn and integrator, it should run just fine. That's like the default fuel map, and without the oxygen sensor feedback, you know, that wonky signal, the integrator and the block learn shouldn't do any ramps, and we shouldn't get this weird fuel control problem. All right, come on, communicate. There we go. I mean, it runs great. So I don't know why the exhaust oxygen is saying lean and rich, because, hey, we're stuck at the bias voltage. So I feel that right now, if you leave it unplugged, it'll be beautiful. Perfect. Now, this check engine light will come on. You won't be happy about that. But what is the root cause of the problem? Again, variables are engine swap. So if the computer is original to the 5.0 and we have 5.7 under the hood, and he said if you put in injectors of a different type, this thing might not even be calibrated right. Plus, the aftermarket exhaust manifolds, is the oxygen sensor even in the right place? You know? So quite a few variables. So we have to decide, you know, what's the proper solution for this vehicle. All right, let's collect some data, take this thing for a spin. I want to see what this oxygen sensor does when this thing is actually driving. So idle, we're definitely rich. Should be in closed loop. Why are we, okay, there goes the integrator, taking fuel away. Block learn's also going down. Oxygen sensor is, there he goes. So what's going on now? Oxygen sensor is actually active. So this is a little better. We're still in fuel control. It's not misfiring. Again, let's take it for a drive and see what happens. Also, I noticed when you put in gear, for some reason the idle air control valve just starts ramping up like crazy, and You end up with a high idle, 1500 RPM. Starting to bring it back down. Oh, no, it's doing its thing again. I really don't like that the block learn is at the lower end of its limit. 102 seems to be the low number. It's misfiring right now. It's pretty loud. Make sure it has brakes. So what happens to our oxygen sensor when we really give it the beans here? Looks like it stays rich. Day today. So cruising down the road, it seems to be doing pretty well. So we're at an idle right now after running it for a bit, and clear as day. We can see the issue here. Obviously the fuel control problem. So it's running smooth, and boom, 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 misfire, misfire, misfire. And the integrator resets to 0%. Then it goes down again. Block learn is also minus whatever, 20%. The oxygen sensor staying pegged rich most of the time. Once in a while it'll do a blip to 256 millivolts, and that's when I think the misfire occurs. So you have no combustion, you get a little gulp of oxygen in the system, then right back to rich. So the fuel control here, the fuel map in this PCM does not match the engine. Okay, and how do you fix that? The engine's not original, but the PCM is. Can you get like a prompt chip for a 5.7 versus a 5.0? I'll have to research that, but this is, you know, not just a diagnosis. This is more like a custom job. Customization. How do we make this thing work? Because this is ridiculous. Look at that integrator. Nice sawtooth pattern. Now I'm going to raise the RPMs a little bit. Let's raise them to like 2,000. See if it's happy there. It's still kind of doing its thing a little bit, you know, once in a while it'll hiccup. But our fuel control looks to be pretty good. Look at the oxygen sensor going up and down. Where's our RPM? There it is, 1750. So these systems, I mean, they're a little primitive. Every time the oxygen sensor cycles, you can see the RPM go like But block learns at 107, integrators at about 125, so not bad. Let's let it down to like maybe 1500 RPM. See what happens there. We're still cycling. I'm thinking if it's running this lean, or I'm sorry, this rich all the time, it's trying to lean itself out, maybe the injectors that he installed are too big. Maybe the old ones are in the box there. So that's a possibility. There's a no parts required fix. Okay, I'm gonna let it idle. And look at this integrator. Boom, 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 minus, minus, minus. Because let's say the injectors are too big, that means the pulse width has to be getting smaller and smaller. So every time it sprays, you can't meter the amount as well, right? If the injector is spraying slower, you can increase the pulse width and, you know, regulate that a lot better versus this fat spray, and you can only turn it on for like a millisecond, and it idle has this crazy issue. It's running. All right, so one thing I did to check how these injectors are sized to the vehicle is do a wide open throttle acceleration through, you know, first and second gear. You see the TPS right here is floored to the rug, literally, as Erico would say. And what's happening to our oxygen sensor? It stays pegged rich, which is good. What are the fuel trims doing? Well, integrator was right around 130, and the block learn, if we move our cursor over, was about 113. All right, that's that wide open throttle. So again, that shows us that the injectors are indeed too big for this vehicle, or the fuel map is holding them open, you know, too long, so the fuel trim has to keep taking away. It's just it's kind of a mess because there's so many variables. So next step is we need to do some research, find out for a 5.0 to a 5.7 swap, is the oxygen sensor in the right place? Is it only supposed to be on one bank? And then find out what these computers, if they're compatible. Can we just throw a 5.7 computer in here, or the chip? This might take a few hours of research. So that's where we are right now. And we'll continue this case study. We have to fix this truck because you know, the owner, he's counting on it.